We live in a modern society with a major stigma. They think that science can explain everything, but little do they know that science is only one limited branch of knowledge. There are other branches of knowledge. There's historical knowledge, there's philosophical knowledge, there's archaeological knowledge, and other fields. And you need to realize that not everything can be scientifically measured. For instance, there are some realities that we hold to be true yet cannot be empirically scientifically measured. You can't scientifically prove logic and reasoning. Take maths, for example. What's the weight of the number 2? That's a stupid question. Yet the number 2 still exists. In fact, let's play a counting game. How many leaves am I holding up? 1, 2. Notice that maths is something that we discover, not invent. Think about it. If there were no human beings, would it still be true that there were 2 leaves, for example? Numbers are abstract realities, yet we hold them to be real, even though we cannot scientifically measure them. We cannot scientifically measure aesthetic beauty. Yeah, we can measure, like the colors, the shape, and how it came to be like that, but science says nothing about why it's intrinsically beautiful. I know there's this whole stigma of art is in the eye of the beholder, but I don't really buy into that sort of thing. Because there are just some things that everyone holds to be universally beautiful, like the love of agape, godly love. If you've got the right mind for it, agape even reaches out to the people we don't like. Which leads me to my next statement. Science cannot judge what is moral. Science can analyze how cyanide can kill a person, but it can't tell you why it's wrong to do so. Now, many of you say, oh, but love is just a chemical. Look, I know dopamine exists, but that's just such pathetic secular propaganda. Because if love is just a chemical, you're implying that love is just physical, right? If love is just purely physical and nothing else, why is sexual assault wrong? According to materialism, we're not really souls, we're just objects dancing to our DNA. Like, you don't get mad when, 2 leaves clash against each other, or one leaf dominates over the other. Mere material objects are not morally accountable to mere material objects. Yet according to materialism, that's all we are. Yet why do we get so enraged whenever someone sexually assaults another? Because love is not just physical, it's personal. When you sexually assault someone, you assault their innate value. Everybody is of infinite value. Now, some of you might say, oh, but consciousness is an illusion. You need to be conscious in order to make that statement. As a matter of fact, if you're saying that consciousness is an illusion, how am I supposed to trust that what you said was true? If that too is an illusion. You wouldn't even trust my answer as an illusion. You wouldn't even trust that. You wouldn't even trust that either. You wouldn't even trust that, and so on and so forth. Which transitions to another thing that science cannot physically measure. Metaphysics. Metaphysics such as there are minds other than my own. You, the viewer, are currently absorbing ideas that I am sharing to you. Am I literally having to pluck ideas out of my head and feeding them to you? No, I'm conversing and you're sinking them in, but that cannot be physically measured. As a matter of fact, imagine a pink elephant. Would I have to bash your brain open to find that pink elephant? No, that pink elephant that you're thinking about is in your mind, not your brain. As a matter of fact, modern science has recently revealed that people can go through brain operations where parts of their brains have to be cut out, and yet their minds are still intact and functioning. And according to NDEs, science has proven that we will never lose consciousness. Therefore, there's a part of us that's intrinsically valuable and eternal. We're not just mere objects with a sell-by date. An infinity is waiting for us. So therefore, we must be infinitely valuable. If you're still not convinced of the truth, there's another thing that science cannot physically measure, and that is truth itself. How much does truth weigh? Can you put truth in a test tube? No, truth is objective. It transcends us. So realities like logic, morality, truth, metaphysics, these are all realities that a lot of people take for granted when they do the sciences. But these realities cannot be physically measured by the sciences. In order to properly discuss these realities, you have to delve into philosophical branches of knowledge. Because philosophy, by definition, is reasonable. It's trying to reason your way to find truth. Like, for example, science can only go so far in explaining how the universe came to be. Yes, we can scientifically explain the functions behind everything, but there comes a point where our modern science is showing that the universe had a beginning. So, if science cannot explain how the universe began, that's when we use philosophical reasoning to try to reason our way to truth. Because whatever started the universe has to be outside of science in order to give birth to science. Because science is only restricted to the natural things around us that we can physically test and observe and repeat. If it's not repeatable, and if it's not observable, then it cannot be scientifically justified. But using reason and logic, we can try to explain things that we cannot see, yet we hold to be real. As a matter of fact, here's something that you don't see yet you hold to be real. Atoms. They're everywhere. Atoms are the unseen things that make up everything we see. So don't you dare tell me, oh, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Hello, atoms everywhere. They're unseen, yet they're real. Not all real things are limited to, the things we can see. I already discussed realities we can't touch and see, so go with me here. So, modern science has shown that the universe had a beginning, right? And science is very limited. Although what the science can tell us is that according to thermodynamics, the universe could not have created itself, nor could it have been eternal according to the rules of thermodynamics. Here's where philosophy comes in. If you're implying that the universe could make itself, you're implying that the universe already existed prior to existing. So that's circular reasoning, so that doesn't count. You might say something in the universe made everything, like gravity or science, but those are limited scientific things, which begs the question, where did that come from? All things in the universe are limited. Whatever created the universe has to be limitless. Whatever created the universe has to be timeless, outside of space, matter, and time. Now, most of you might say, well, nothing made everything. But that doesn't make any sense at all. No one has ever seen anything spontaneously and magically pop into existence out of nothing. In fact, having something pop into existence out of nothing without a prior cause, it's worse than magic. Because, say what you want about superstitious magic, but at least with magic, you have, like, the magician pulling the rabbit out of the hat, for example. At least that's a cause. If you're saying that nothing created everything, you're essentially saying that a rabbit could come out of a magician's hat without a magician. What caused the nothing to spontaneously combust into something for no apparent reason? Again, this reasoning cannot be scientifically measured. This is philosophical talking we're talking about here. Now, you might say, well, give us enough time and science will solve everything. Did you use science to come to that conclusion? Can you scientifically measure the specific wordings and letters you used? Can you observe and test and repeat what you just said in a lab? Can you scientifically analyze that sentence you just said there? No, what you just said there was a philosophical claim, not a scientific one. And since that philosophical claim that science can solve everything is in itself not judged by science but by philosophy, that means that science cannot solve everything. Thus, scientism is refuted. Now, I am not anti-science. I'm all for science. I endorse it. In fact, it was The founding fathers of science, who looked up to God for a divine design that really got modern science as we know it started. And anyone of any worldview can do science. That secular propaganda of faith versus science, that's just garbage. Isaac Newton was a profound Christian, and he is one of the founding fathers of science. In fact, try typing up some of his quotes in regards to unbelief. You'll be in for quite a surprise. What's embarrassing is that people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, as cool as he is, will deliberately lie about scientific history in order to sustain their materialistic agenda. If they're willing to do that in the name of their agenda, why should we trust them with anything else, they say? So, as Oxford professor of maths John Lennox would say, this is not a case of faith versus science. This is a case of worldview against worldview. Because anyone of any worldview can do science. Like, let me make a scientific statement that could put some secularists on guard. Take the law of biogenesis, for example. This is a scientifically proven law that life can only come from pre-existing life. Consciousness is a hard problem for materialists for a reason. Mere chemicals do not explain how one can become conscious. The laws of entropy indicate that everything is losing energy. Now you might say, oh, but the sun keeps us nice and healthy. Okay, you're getting confused. The sun sustains everything. And yes, things are growing because of the sun, yes. But in terms of genetic energy, throughout each generation, it's losing energy. Like a wind-up toy or a battery. It's also the laws of entropy that enable us to digest our food, mind you. So the law of entropy and the law of biogenesis should put these evolutionary theories on guard. You see, I can make a scientific case too. And I can go beyond the stigma that science can explain everything, because philosophy has shown that science cannot explain everything. And I mean no hostility when I make these videos. I am more than happy to have conversations with you skeptics. I welcome the hostility. I would love some open-minded conversations. But if you're telling me that science is the only thing that can explain everything, you need to go back to the academia, my friend.